So this is OBS, which I use to record the vast majority of my lectures. You can find OBS, let's see, over here. So, one second, obsproject.com. If you run Linux, it gives you the instructions on how to install that here. Windows, Mac, there's the installer. It's very easy to install. All right, so once you install it, you'll get something like this. It'll actually look something a bit more like this dark theme over here, which is the default. This screen will also, this entire area will also be completely black because you haven't set up a scene with sources yet, which I'll get into. And then it will obviously say start recording here and then stop recording. Also, it will identify it's your first time here, which it will have an auto configuration wizard it wants to run. If you want to run it again over there, you can select the defaults right now. It will ask about the canvas size, which is basically the size of your recordings, as well as your output size. You can match your canvas. Your canvas is most likely going to be your screen size and in pixels, and your output size will depend on your hardware. I like to try to match them. So here I'm recording something at 1440p or 2K, and my output's going to be around that same size as well. So let me go into settings over here. I'm going to sit back over to the system, right, because that's much better for me for that. There's all sorts of settings over here that you don't really need to touch for right now, but over here you can see that what I'm doing is that I've got for my recording saying it's high quality, medium file size, which is good. This is the format you want, the file type. It doesn't really matter because almost everything accepts any file type these days. And then your encoder. If you've got a graphics card, an NVIDIA graphics card, it'll have NVENC up there, which means that it'll push all the work for the recording onto the graphics card. Otherwise, you've got software encoders. You can see over here the CPU usage of this. When I'm using the GPU, it's not really doing much. There's two settings by default over here. If you find it's choppy, there's the software setting, and then there is the software with a large file size, but it's less CPU intensive, so that's your trade-off. And I use that quite a bit on my laptop. Anyway, that's a bit more advanced than I actually needed to go. You can detect all sorts of audio sources, which is great. But how do you actually record things? Okay, so generally you'll set up with you'll see, basically you can create multiple scenes. You'll have one created by default that's empty. Notice over here I have screen capture and just screen. With it, when I go to just screen, basically gets there. The effect that happens over there is dictated by this. Either you can fade when you change, or you can select, or you can have it just kind of jump. I prefer the fade, but that's okay. It's not really relevant. I'll get into what's going on behind me and why I'm cut out in just a bit. But anyway, your most common sources are display capture, which just captures the entire display, and video device capture. Now this will be completely empty and completely blank when you start. Now I'm going to start by capturing a display. Now when this pops up, you've got a lot of options here. So you could capture like just a window, a specific window, or you can capture an entire screen, which is what I like to do. So I'm going to go and select not video capture device, display capture over here. Now I've already got a display capture, right? This guy over here, it's identified it, so hence display capture 2. But say I didn't have anything there and I were to hit OK, this is the screen that would pop up, which says, hey, select your screen. I have 2 monitors over here, that's why I get 2. If you're on a laptop, you're just going to get 1. Fairly straightforward. Also, probably want to capture this little guy, the helpful cursor. Okay. But to simulate how that would actually work, I'm going to hit display capture and go ahead and hit create new. And instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the other screen. So let's see. And that's the other screen, right, with the software that I'm using to cut my face out of my room, which would look like this otherwise. See? That's pretty cool. Okay, so I'll go and remove the background now. So anyway, over there. So these various sources can be moved around. They can be resized. So let's go ahead and just, I can just shrink this guy down. I'm going to move him out of the screen right now. And now this is my primary screen over here. Now, which one goes on top depends on the order that they appear over here. So let's go ahead and just pretend that basically, let's go ahead and remove this guy. Actually, no. And let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and remove this guy over here. Yeah, remove this guy. Okay, now I've removed myself. And so you might get something like this. You might want to resize it to be fine. I'll go ahead and remove this display capture over here as well, so that we can simulate that. And now you just see what this is. Actually, I have to go and put display capture back 1 so you can see this. I realize. So I'll just toss this back on top. All right. So now how do I add a web camera in? I'm going to go ahead and hit video capture device. Select the appropriate video capture device. Now I'm using a piece of software called XSplit VCam, which does this whole auto remove thing, but otherwise you could select your web camera if it's not currently in use and just simply hit the defaults and then drag yourself to wherever you want to be, or your camera wherever you want to be. Works the same way with the camera, and resize yourself as appropriate. Typically I just like to cover the time or the apps being used down there. That's fairly straightforward. And it ends up being a very easy way to code and to do things. So here I'm going to go and open up idle, right? And, I can do this and then, yep, and let's just write hello world very quickly. Because in Python, that's amazing. Print hello. Put quotation marks around it. Save. Desktop. Hello. And run it. And there. Then this is effectively what the students see. So this XSplit V camera that I'm using, by the way, I picked it up when it was on sale and it cost me like $1 when I did it. But a lifetime license is like, I don't know, 40. But you can basically take your original background. You can make it blurry if you need to. You can cut it out. It has some limitations, as you can see, a bit more. Also, if you have a green screen, which I typically I have that behind me, it's fine. It's much better. You can also replace it with, you can replace with a different background. It's helpful if you basically feel really self-conscious about how messy your room is or something. There are capabilities, by the way, in OBS to do stuff like chroma keying, but I have a separate video for that. So, all right, that's essentially OBS in a nutshell. It's a fairly easy app to use. It took me about like a half an hour to get really comfortable with it. It's not that bad. Okay. One other thing I want to mention is that there are, it's very customizable. You can create hotkeys. Like here I have hotkeys for starting and stopping recording. You can have hotkeys to jump from one scene to another. So yeah. So I could set up just using the web camera, just this, or just the screen. It works very well.